Inventing a business. Jessica Mitford's classic inquiry into the funeral and cemetery business world, The American Way of Death, published in 1963, provides the greatest insight into the sales and marketing culture Lee Mittinger would carry over to Nutrilite. Her journalistic exposé, necessarily softened at times with ironic humor, shocked the country for the cruel manipulations and the extortionate profitability she revealed. But perhaps even more disturbing was the harsh mirror she held up for America to see itself as it succumbed to fantasies and frauds. One chapter is dedicated to the legendary and industry standard-setting Forest Lawn. Portending the invention of multi-level marketing, partly based on Mittinger's experience at Forest Lawn, Mitford explained that selling cemetery plots for profit was an invented business. It existed only for a decade or so when Mittinger made it his career. Prior to 1920, the vast majority of all cemetery plots were provided at low cost by churches, local governments, and the military, not businesses. Plots were not for profit and were usually not purchased until time of death. The modest costs were covered by savings, family contributions, churches, or very often small life insurance policies, or death benefits provided by employers and fraternal organizations. The new for-profit business stealthily maintained the traditional, quote, non-profit identity, thereby exempting it from taxes and expropriating the tone of religious piety and public service. The new business model drastically increased the cost of burial, grabbed up the pool of death benefits and family savings, and added billions in consumer debt. It did this while producing almost unheard-of profits to the developers, quote, spectacular beyond the dreams of the most avaricious real estate subdivider, Mitford found. A key element in the transformation of burial from a simple faith-based and public function into a highly commercialized and wildly profitable marketing scheme was the fielding of thousands of door-to-door salespeople promoting, quote, pre-need purchases of plots and a host of related services. Forest Lawn was among the first to offer funeral and cremation services along with burial plots, all purchased decades before the buyers needed or had planned them. The sales pitch replaced tradition while claiming to be its fullest and highest expression. The famously high-pressure and manipulative sales program added at least 50% to all charges just to cover the salespeople's own commissions. This was where Mittinger learned direct selling. The amazing profitability unleashed in commercializing an intimate and spiritual realm of life was revealed in data Mitford researched, showing the price per cubic foot for a cemetery crypt to be 12 times greater than the cost of family homes. Teams of invasive door-to-door sales representatives were used not only to increase dollar volume per sale, but also to offset the greatest of all barriers to money-making in cemetery sales, the actual death rate. By using installment plans, far more plots could be sold each year than would be used for actually deceased people. The system was so profitable that it naturally led to more and more for-profit cemeteries being established. As Mitford explained, the developer of new commercial cemeteries could start selling plots long before the cemeteries were developed. Salespeople trained in the new business often moved from one development to the next, just as later, quote, kingpin MLM recruiters would as MLMs spread across the country. In most other businesses, the relative value provided by the salespeople is weighed against existing product demand and the company's established brand. Advertising and marketing programs might also offset calculations of the actual value provided by the sales force. But in the field Mittinger trained in, it was clearly understood that the personal delivery of the sales message by high-pressure representatives in prospective customers' homes was responsible for virtually the entire business. Customer need was created by the sales presentation. No demand had ever existed for the ostensible product of a cemetery plot to be purchased years before the customer passed away. But Mittinger's sales reps were not selling just real estate. They were offering a way to remove the sting of death, purchase eternal bliss, and even gain higher social status, replete with music, statues, and vistas of mountains and valleys to be appreciated for eternity. The absence of immediate need for a burial plot, even one described by promoters as, quote, a place of infinite loveliness, was overwhelmed by talk of factors implying urgency, such as obligation to lift a future burden from family, gaining the exalted status of land ownership, for many people the only real estate they would ever own, protection from, quote, inflation, and securing, quote, perpetual care. The selling factor in the new industry was praised by the president of a leading sales organization for increasing the price of lots at one cemetery from $150 to $380. Industry data showed, quote, 4 to 10 times more is spent for direct selling by the commercial cemetery promoters than is spent for the total cost of planning, developing, and landscaping. This experience in an invented field, based almost totally on sales pitches, not intrinsic value or consumer need, would prove crucial when Mittinger and Castleberry launched their new sales plan at Neutralite. There was no demonstrable need or consumer demand for Renborg's vitamins. Indeed, the need for and value of all vitamins of this type had not been demonstrated for virtually all Americans eating a traditional diet. But the marketing plan devised by Mittinger and Castleberry was not aimed at customers merely seeking better health, any more than cemetery salespeople were merely selling burial plots to perfectly healthy people. The real product message planned for Neutralite was to be about, quote, unlimited income and, quote, total financial security, escaping the dreaded destiny of loser and achieving, quote, complete success. The sales position at Forest Lawn and other cemetery sales operations Lee Mittinger occupied was termed memorial counselor, presaging the nomenclature adopted in multi-level marketing of, quote, coach, consultant, associate, distributor, anything other than salesperson or recruiter. In this, quote, counselor capacity, the range of services recommended could extend far beyond a plot of burial soil to include vaults, bronze grave markers, flowers, postcards, and statuary, and the collection, control, and management of huge perpetual care funds. Mitford revealed that cemetery plot salespeople could add a surcharge from 10 to 25% for, quote, future care, even on concrete mausoleums. Such non-quantifiable services and products as enhancing motivation, sales leads of unknown source and value, registration fees at, quote, recognition events, books offering instructional advice on living positively, and inspirational audio-visual for upholding an optimistic view despite dire financial results, would eventually be added to the sales portfolio in Mittinger's future MLM plan. Certificates are issued by some MLMs at formal ceremonies in which the recruits wear, quote, caps and gowns. Some of the educational programs are actually called university. These ephemeral services would formalize into the teaching of, quote, laws of attraction and, quote, secrets that ensured financial success, and an economic and political ideology based on extreme individualism. Mittinger was trained in a then classic but now largely extinct setting for generating business, the face-to-face struggle between trained and weaponized sales representative and unarmed but formidably resistant customer. To the customer's great disadvantage, the battle occurred inside the customer's own home. The customer might be vigilant while the sales rep stood outside the front door, but once inside the home, the sales rep became, by social custom, a guest, and therefore accorded civility and deference, coffee and pie, even as he moved in for the financial kill. The salesperson's very survival was on the line, fortifying him with fierce determination, while armed with finely tuned techniques of persuasion and domination. Every objection had a rehearsed and logically unassailable answer. Writer Ben Ehrenreich characterized the Forest Lawn marketing scheme and narrative as, quote, a sophisticated strategy for lubricating the checkbooks of the grieved. So prevalent is deception in the cemetery plot business that the FBI lists it as a specific category among, quote, the most common scams that the FBI encounters. The magazine Consumer's Digest called the cemetery industry treacherous for consumers. Today, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, warns, quote, pyramid schemes masquerading as MLM programs often violate the federal securities laws, such as laws prohibiting fraud.